Well.
It should be. Text me when you're done. Just don't forget this.
Yeah. Yeah, suburbs.
Was it? She says 17. I don't think you can read. Big difference between college and make sure it drives. And be like,
Andrew, I guess I should introduce myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm John Christ.
Andrew.
You want to coach and drive and your crowds. I can I get a line or do you want to go closer to the roads? Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a lot to talk about. They took the walnut tree down.
Should they get the stadium built?
It's always.
They done over there, they still.
Not done. Going to be able to use parts of it. To be able to have goalkeepers and coaches up there. The
Yeah.
rooms will be open. There's a lot of restrooms, lots of concession stand. We're hoping by next spring.
So to create a slab for like a coffee table or something?
Great.
Yes.
Oh,
They
is that
didn't,
it?
they didn't put, at halftime, they don't have
So it's,
locker rooms.
plumbing is roughed in, but
Yeah.
it is not included in the project at this time.
Really? That's surprising.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is that, and they haven't shared anything, but I thought it was 5 to 10 years, they'll
Think
replace
that's
the
hard?
bleachers and maybe when they, maybe they don't want to put plumbing in there until that's
Yeah,
done.
but-
So that steel bleachers have to be like 40s or 50s. That's kind of.
Yeah. They don't look too bad. but
No, they don't. I mean.
Okay.
steel from
I'm
40s and 50s is
surprised they
steel.
didn't tie it more into the building.
Well, and I think that's probably part of the other reason why I think they're gonna replace that.
Yeah.
But I hear about things after they start.
Dan Hall was telling me all about that this summer. I do the swimming in Upper Camp,
Oh, okay.
and he was telling me all about things that are not in there.
You know, I mean. They've been talking about doing that for a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like the Bears that's got a huge donation. That's took
Yeah.
some time and some planning.
They had some equipment in there ready to start on reading.
Oh, yeah, they started pulling some key limestone pieces off, I think.
You know,
I don't know if they're trying to save it
actually,
because the historic value of it, or because they, like the Bears that they're finishing now, they struggle to get some of the finishing limestone pieces in. So
you have an Etsy board coming.
Yeah.
maybe, I mean, some of that stuff is 100+ years old, so it'd be cool if you could clean it up.
Okay.
You know, class.
And mine show should
Yeah.
come.
On Etsy, yeah.
Plus, it's good shape.
Well, I'm sure,
It's
you know, and of Sally Ford is on the agenda. Is that the next one?
When Maine's gonna go redo north and east in that whole area.
I just a lot of work.
I mean,
He says, yes.
this year though, that air conditioning. Looks new.
Yeah.
So when you want the space between your house and the street, yeah.
Like the size of this.
Did they pull around yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were supposed to start that, I
You
think
know,
the
walnut
8th,
trees are
something like that.
notorious for having bad vibes with.
Before you sit down, I'll introduce myself. John Christ.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
I assume you've taken the oath and.
Yes, I have. Week and a half ago.
How did
He was swearing at somebody the other day.
you?
I think that counts. I'm not sure.
That's
the only time you get it.
This year I had great success. And
So did you get the thing all hooked up and are we on line?
It's online now.
baseball, well, I did baseball, baseball.
That's right.
Like, this is all.
Yeah, sorry. I'll catch you.
The pro.
Yeah.
for roses.
Catch you.
Not to brag, but I said, I'm part of the tomatoes you stink it.
Have you pulled the Smith one?
I did.
That's completely on?
Yes, we have withdrawn it, but we'll resubmit it.
I see.
We'll resubmit it.
Okay.
We had some issues with the contractor and location, and rather than confuse you, I just, we'll resubmit it.
Okay.
That's the one I had a question.
Third one,
You won't have. Replace it.
I'm gonna send a copy.
That's clear. One more box.
Yeah, down by Rochester. And
Let's turn address. to the one that-
You know,
We have, which one?
Yeah.
I didn't get the
No,
other two.
we haven't done that.
This is not good.
Different address.
Yeah.
This is on.
Different person,
Right,
different
absolutely,
address.
yeah.
That's bad.
Well, one's the other
I tried
one
it.
is.
Oh. Yeah.
It's a whole lot better than bending down.
College.
It is.
Yeah, both of them.
Are they both in it?
No. Booth will be. Did you have a copy of this? I got it the other day.
I think I have this.
I can't get anything on my computer right now. That couldn't even print anything else.
I'm very small.
What, I wouldn't mind.
Copy one.
Yeah, we could print it. We don't. This is that. I mean,
Second. You can have your-
Have you been down to Tech? Been down to Tech, Indianapolis?
I've been in high school, we wrestled them at some point,
I
but
was trying to remember exactly where in the near east side.
Yes, I did.
It's the last time since I've been there too.
And, they have been.
Indianapolis Arsenal Technical. That's-
I used to take my junior high chess team down there for state.
Oh, really?
That's-
You know, like big
That's years ago.
And she ultimately decided to take down, when they did, you know, because it was.
He's still learning.
And because it, you know, she was grateful that they took it when they did. A couple weeks. ago. Something.
75, probably 75 next month. Yeah. Get old enough to know better.
I'll be 68. Baby.
You're just tough.
There you go. I'm gonna hang.
You were or you will be? You were or you will be?
I would be.
When in February? I'll be 68, February 25th.
Really?
Yeah.
42 in March.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Culver Board of Zoning Appeals to order. I ask everybody to stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here. I remind you that this is being recorded. So like I say every time, if you don't want it to be recorded, don't say it, because it will be. Do we have any minutes from the last meeting? We'd like to welcome our new member, John Chris. This is his first meeting tonight. He's replacing Mr. Eupler, and we will be looking for a new secretary. So I'm going to take some notes tonight. We'll try to get some minutes written, and then this should be a fairly easy night, hopefully. And in our next meeting, we'll definitely be looking for secretaries. So
If we have no volunteers, we put your name in the hat and
that's right,
somebody's coming out.
without my name on it.
Right, no, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I'm vice.
And I'll have roll call. We have on the first member over here is Andrew Melson. Barry Manaway, Dan Adams, John Christ, and this is our building commissioner.
Chuck DeWitt.
Chuck DeWitt, thank you. Can't remember much of anything tonight. Okay, we have two petitions on the agenda for tonight. First is 2022-009B. Mr. Easterday, I think, has some handouts for us.
Yes, did you get the handouts? Did they all get the handouts?
I did.
I brought 15 there.
I printed it off so I may have it.
Which is a new handout.
Yes. My week with Culver has been exciting, to say the least.
Where did you leave tonight?
They handed them to the deputy clerk. He said she would, this for Tuesday. That's the same day I came to a planning commission meeting and we did this. Basically, we have listened to your comments. I went back to the drawing board, spent a lot of time trying to put this thing back together in such a way that it would work. The comment that was most critical to us was you did not want that long hallway back close to the property line. And if we could get it around the building and into the other buildings, and we did that, but we actually changed the size of the other building because the way it would have worked before, it still would have been within the 10 feet. And this way we have the true 10-foot setback every place except for where we're going around the
From the dining room to the front.
Exactly.
That's kind of what we talked about the last.
That's exactly what we talked about the last meeting. And we need our lot coverage. And so that's what we were able to do.
Yeah, 51%.
The storage shed is gone. I'd say
Storage
that out
shed
there.
will be removed. The deck, which was a lot closer to the property line.
Okay.
The deck, which was a lot closer to the property line, is also being.
Okay. Okay, questions or comments from the gallery? Yeah,
Please.
thank you. You got any questions, comments from the gallery?
No, I understand they're gonna have a surveyor And I think that might be a good thing to do.
We are in fact going to do that, but I attached to the ones that I had, we went back to the surveyor and found a setback, and they were showing 2 feet from the line when they surveyed it before, but we are gonna have them stake it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Chris?
Well, since I don't know what was discussed
Right.
prior, maybe I need a little brought up to snuff on that.
You want to look at the original picture.
This is the one from left. So you can see.
And you've got a copy of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I printed it off. Okay.
So
So what was the concern then?
the last meeting, the concern was that we were encroaching on the neighbor's property for such an extended period, as opposed to, just trying to get around the house and then bring the breezeway back to the 10-foot setback.
Okay.
This part of the house already exists.
Yeah, I went out and looked. And
And because they want to have a patio area here between the two sections. They want to build onto the house. This is-
right, I got
this is
that.
open. And they want, but it's got to be connected, so it's not too.
Make sure I'm looking
Two
at
houses.
Okay.
And so what they had before was this running all the way back. We asked. them
I
to
see,
move it
okay,
here.
I see
So
what
now
you
they're
did,
meeting the
okay.
10 foot here, so it's 5 feet.
Okay, so what I was looking at here, this is what I printed off last week. Okay,
Yeah, that's the difference.
okay.
And right now, there's a shed back here that's.
Right.
On the top. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And we talked about it in the last meeting, of doing this, and they've done this.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions? Mr. DeWitt, do you have any comments, questions?
Just to go along with what Barry said, that was a big concern with the way they had that. And then it was also the impervious surface, if you remember. It's like 58% when they first came to us. And now we're down to 49 pervious. So I think that they've moved in the direction that we needed to and got done what we've asked.
Any other questions from the folks here? Anybody have, yes, Michelle?
I'm just a little concerned. Since I'm downhill from the property about drainage. Because there's gonna be a lot more property covered with cement. Foundations and driveways and things that, I don't want my basement to flood, which it usually does not.
How much lower is it? Is it quite a bit lower?
It's gradual, but it's significant. Yeah, I notice it.
The water runs off that property now.
I'm sorry, what?
The water runoff right now comes down to your property. Heavy rain, whatever.
Right now, everything usually soaks in, but not always.
Sure that we'll make arrangements to not channel any water per house.
Well,
Gutters and downspouts.
yeah.
And into a basement, into a basin and release.
Well, and also all that basically behind her, well, so where all the concrete is going to be, the runoff will be fast, coming back up towards her.
We'll certainly look at that.
Just say, please do address that when you're doing the
Yeah.
construction, and that's gonna be it's a problem. We'll have to address it, I guess. I don't.
It is an ordinance that requires some main water, not on the side of the property. We've had issues in the past, but the ordinance does call for us to address that. So, as well.
Currently, the downspouts do face my property, which is normal, and mine faces Kathy's. But, there's like swells in the ground that, sort of, take that in.
And we're talking about possibly a catch basin could be put in so it's drained into a catch basin.
Okay,
That's a possibility. Just need to look at that. And they said they will look at that.
okay.
Take that in mind when they're doing the construction. So is it answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And that will be addressed. Anybody else? Anybody online?
We have two online, but we don't have any comments right now.
Okay. Okay, if nothing more, we're going to move to finding the facts.
We have donuts up here. We try to pick them up.
Sitting there thinking, that food, is that really what that is?
Please do.
Before anyone speaks.
They have to take it note of it.
I've already spoken.
I guess I'll be talking all night.
And I'll explain how this works.
Yeah, I think some of these, so I kind of know a little bit.
On here someplace. Did I lose it?
I need to fill out the case number and the petitioner and all that here.
Jim?
Okay, so I fill this in.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you lose, okay.
Which case number do I use? Local case number or case number?
One in dark. Fine.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at this, okay. Mr. Easterday be the petitioner, or would it be,
Either
the
way.
Boots?
Put both Easterday slash. You what? So you can put Easterday slash. Trying to train him the right way.
Yeah, remember, this is my first meeting.
You're gonna wonder what.
Haven't made any mistakes yet.
There will be three questions that I ask. Finding of facts. And if you answer no on any of these, you have to vote no on the variance. Based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Mechlin,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Christ,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Meshland,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Mr. Meshland,
Yes.
Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I would entertain a motion that we approve this variance.
So moved.
Mr. Chris moved.
Second.
I like the first stipulation on that. I agree with the motion, but I know we got a 2-foot setback that we're looking at as far as approving. But right now the setback only goes as far as the dining room. And I would rather see the stipulation that variance does not include the folks east side of the property, just for that distance.
Yes.
But the dining room is right. That's already,
And probably-
this is for what they're adding.
Yes.
The dining room's already there.
Where's the 2 feet setback?
The 5 feet is where the hallway starts from the dining
That's
room
for 5.
going back.
This is already.
That was original.
Oh, maybe I had the wrong paper. I was looking at the other one. Fair. So 5 feet.
Okay, you understand now?
Yeah, but I still want that 5 feet to go, not the full length of the property. Because it's not right. I mean, we've got the 10 feet past the breezeway,
I,
and I don't want the variance to be allowing for future purposes, because if we do it,
we could probably put the stipulation that it, as in
Submitted
the
or as
plans,
proposed.
Yeah, as submitted.
as plans submitted.
okay. Second motion.
I think Mr. Mission already had, so.
Great.
Okay. Okay, how do you vote on the motion, Mr. Michelin? Mr. McManaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Approved 4-0.
Smith has been cool.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Sure.
Have a donut on the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You gonna be around tomorrow afternoon?
Tomorrow afternoon, maybe.
I'll give you a call.
Yeah, give me a call.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The second item on the agenda, just gonna move down the street, a couple houses to the 214 East College. There's the pen. I got 2 new pens now. filed by Beverly Ecker. Beverly, if you'd like to address this, let you go ahead.
Okay, we would like to request variance on the east side of the yard of 10 feet, be 6.5, so for a 3.5 foot variance. And then also for the back side of the yard, which is the north side, instead of the 25 foot, we could do 20 foot. Reason being is that it's the high side of the yard. The contractors advise if we could try to keep it up that way, because otherwise people will have issues with water when we build the garage.
Do you have any drawings at all with you?
It's submitted online, but I have. This is what I see.
I think we came through very well on.
Oh, did it not? Oh, sorry about that.
What is the size of the garage?
24 by 30.
So there's how much distance between the house and the garage?
I don't know the exact, what would you guesstimate?
Fair amount.
Is that a good answer?
I've got that on my paper.
They're
Maybe-
probably about 40 feet
I was just gonna guess 40. Yeah, that might be a good,
from the house to the proposed garage.
correct.
It's a long lot. I mean, it goes from street to street.
Well, you know what? I can give you a better idea, actually, probably. It's one, so. Wait,
Where's the water issue you're talking about? As far as-
It's lower to the west,
Yeah.
correct? It goes down.
correct, yeah,
Because it drops down to your yard and then goes down.
it
again,
does,
right?
yes.
Now, Michelle, are you on the other side? This house?
Two houses.
There's the house between.
I think next door.
Oh, you're next door.
You're next door to the west or to the east? You're next door to the east. Okay.
And then Maryland.
Yeah.
Or represented.
Yeah.
You guys are seated in the wrong spot.
Did you want to say that?
Yeah.
It does drop pretty low.
It
Yeah.
does, yeah.
As far as it, yeah.
And it slopes down to the
West.
west. Did anybody hear from the house to the west?
No.
So you're talking 18.5 then from the west side.
All the west slopes back down to there.
So you're kind of in the,
The valley.
How far up was the tree that you guys took? Was it in front of where this is gonna be?
Trees down.
Top of the house.
Yep, it was up. Yeah, right. Right about there.
Are there any, just be talking, I don't know if it matters this, are there any gas or any underground lines that run through there?
There is a gas line that runs along the east side of the yard, and we had wanted to try to do a setback that was closer, but because we need to be away from I have a good neighbor that reminded me that I need to be, like, take that into consideration, could not build over that. So it has to be 2 feet from where the gas line is, which is why I asked for the 6.5.
So it's about 4.5 feet off the property line.
any other questions, Mr. Commissioner? Mr. Manaway?
Yeah, is there any reason that you're only going 20 feet from the street?
This is the highest, there's, between the house and the garage, there's kind of comes down, and the contractor had said that if we do it on the other side, we do it on the high side, it'll minimize, any kind of water that would go into the garage.
So if you moved it to the south, I guess, it would be,
It's lower.
it gets lower and lower. Your foundation, I guess.
Yeah, I have several. Looking at how you're gonna place the garage, it appears to me that the western, as you progress west, you're gonna have to build up, or you're going to either have to build up the land somewhat there, or you're gonna have to dig deeper to the east to put in your footings.
Whole barn construction. So
It's
there
a
won't be
whole barn. Okay, then I also noticed that there would be about 18 and a half feet or 16 and a half feet on the west end from the garage to the west property line. And so I'm kind of curious why you need to be 3.5 feet to the east. That's the consideration I have. And then I also had a concern why you needed actually to have 20 feet. Because it does look like no matter what, you're gonna have to do some fill for the drive into the pole barn from Lewis Street.
I think there's minimal fill there, but from the garage to the house, there's another like valley and the recommendation was that if we could have it as, much in the northeast corner as possible, that would help minimize any kind of water going into the house and or into the garage.
Okay, so then the next question I would have is, then in the event that you're talking about water flowing in there, where is it gonna ultimately flow?
There's a PVC tube that was put in by like probably the previous owners that is in the center of the yard that helps with, some of that. I think any of the water that is coming out in the yard.
That water go.
Yeah, that would be my next question. Where does that water go?
The street, the way the.
I mean, does it go into the storm water or does it go?
It dissipates into the ground.
Okay.
One of the, you didn't ask me yet, but I'll speak up. They have a very unusual lot. And the hardship with their both setbacks come from the topography of the lot. Not because they can't meet them, but because if they don't, then they're probably going to be adding tens of thousands of dollars to try to put a garage that meets the setbacks. So by just moving it within that 3.5 feet and 5 feet in the back, it will allow them to minimize the amount of fill. They're still going to have a different amount of fill. There's about 6 feet difference, 6.5 feet difference from Lewis Street to where their garage is going to be now. And that's a lot when you're in construction, that Barry. So by minimizing what they've got, by moving it to that 3.5 feet over and 5 feet back, it's going to.
Is there any drainage, currently any drainage on that south side of Lewis Street that runs east-west?
But what they would be taking everything off of Lewis Street onto their property because it's lower. So, if you find that drain that you got isn't working, you'll have to increase that in some capacity. Make sure it's maintained. I'm sorry that I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Then I guess the question I still have is then where does that drain that currently on a property, where does that flow to?
It makes no difference to us.
Yeah, it's groundwater.
It just dissipates into the ground.
Oh, okay.
Because of the topography of theirs, it sounds like everybody else's yard kind of runs in.
Especially getting through those streets.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of saw that it looked like it was all gonna pool into the center of the yard. And so I kind of
It
said,
goes into the ground and then dissipates. It's not a closed basin or anything that runs to the lake. What they would do during those times would put a structure there, leave the bottom out. They would put gravel down deep and then run perforated tile
okay,
and gravel out into the fingers so that water come in and then it would go out and dissipate down into the ground.
and there's never been any prior issue with that
Not
failing
Not
or?
that we're aware of.
So if this were allowed, then you would still be able to access that in the event that it did fail.
Yes.
Correct?
So if it did fail, then they could put in another structure and help that out.
Okay,
But they've got enough property that they can dissipate it underground if they choose to, rather than where we have some of the lake properties, we've got to put a basin in with a pump
Mhm.
to get it out. Here, they've got enough ground that they
Okay.
can dissipate it out.
Chuck, I might ask this question just to reiterate just a little bit. You're talking about the hardship as far as the property. I'm understanding that the hardship cannot really be corrected. Other than you're talking fill, which probably caused problem to the properties beside it.
Right.
Is that way I'm understanding right?
Yeah,
In
that,
other words, their hardship would create a hardship if we corrected their.
the more you move it, yeah, the more you move it off of Lewis Street and the more you move it to the west, the higher they're going to be up out of the ground. And then that in itself causes problems for neighbors on either side.
I have one other question. Since I noticed that you did have a tree removed, are you gonna have the stump ground?
Yes.
So that in essence will probably help a little bit too.
Water dissipation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions from the board? Mr. DeWitt, do you have any other questions
I
or
don't have
comments?
anything else.
Questions or comments from the audience? Neighbors involved? Yes, Mike.
This is just a suggestion. Presume there'll probably be gutters on the garage. You could take the downspouts and you can bury them out to an area you can direct it anywhere you want and put what are called pop-ups in. And because of the soil conditions, that would dissipate into the soil angle. So you can literally, where you're gonna get the most runoff is right off the roof. That's where in a heavy storm where it's most likely to pile up on you. So if you get that away with the gutters in field tile, away from the garage, then pop-ups will work beautifully. And, like a catch basin of some sort without some exit of that water from the catch basin is just gonna hold it, and then they end up coming up out of it. So at least we found that this works very well in old areas of town because we have no storm sewers. So get it away from the garage and get it to where, I mean, it's easy to direct it to where the easiest spot is so that it dissipates.
What Mr. Stallings is saying, and it's a construction technique that really works. Your gutters come down and then you put it into a perforated tile under the ground. And then you run it out and then have what we call a pop-up, so that if it's gushing so fast that it can't take it down into the ground, it pops up, the water comes out, then goes
Same thing,
across the
except without the gravel.
Pop-up allows the pressure to relieve itself if it's too much.
We actually did the same thing over at the Bonnegat house.
Yeah.
Where there's Culver. We did the whole thing right, tried to house it. Hold sides of the houses could have built in the residential, whatever. But we actually put tile that went through in the rock, so deep all over the top of it. Your options are which we're looking at right now as far as making sure that water that you're getting now is not running out of the problem.
Sounds like all the water runoff's gonna go to.
Yeah, correct. Their yard, the water,
Yeah.
you know, you're with it, but yeah,
We are the one.
I don't mean that respectfully.
Okay, any questions from anybody listening in? Online?
Nothing.
Any further questions or comments? We ready to move to finding of facts? Okay, if I keep this?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, everybody ready? Question number one, based upon the evidence submitted, I find that number one, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Mr. Michelin,
Yes.
Mr. Manaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Mr. Michelin,
Yes.
Mr. Manaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in use of the property. Mr. Michelin,
Yes.
Mr. Manaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. I would entertain a motion that we approve this variance.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved properly second that we approve this variance. Any further discussion? Okay, how do you vote on this variance, Mr. Michelin,
Yes.
Mr. Manaway,
Yes.
Mr. Chris,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Approved 4-0. Okay. New business.
Thank you all very much.
Oh, you love it.
Figure it out.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Think about
Kids.
Do you have any new business for us coming up that you know of? And
No, just so that you're aware of it, the Culver Stellar is group is working on comprehensive plan, but also putting in what they call Destination 2040. So as you guys see that, you can go online and get into that, just so that you know where the town's trying to move and what they're trying to do, because comprehensive plan guides what we do, all those ordinance, and where the town wants to go. I think be informational for everybody. And I look at it when you can. And
I've seen it.
I've seen.
I've actually filled out one of those surveys.
Why is 24? I didn't live in that far in the future.
yeah,
We're trying to do a comprehensive plan. It's going to extend further than our regular 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the comprehensive plan, normally it isn't a 5 or 10 year, it's out further, but we usually try to get it about every 10 to 12 years.
yes, I know. I mean, before we did. We were looking at a 5-year plan. But still, I was just curious, we had a, 18-year plan here. I didn't know.
No, it's the town's looking that far into the future to see
Right, and which
where
we
it's
should.
gonna go
Yeah.
and what the citizens want to see.
Yeah. I had no objection to that. I was just wanting clarification. I didn't know why it was 2040.
Yeah, that was it. That's all I've got.
I was going to bring up too, I know we had a discussion, about having our agendas prepared, whatever, as far as what on there and stuff. And I had talked to one of the council members, which is Bill Clevenger, that just in passing, wasn't anything official. But, we had discussed maybe even having as far as maybe a process, because I know right now we're looking at even the filing for variance or on the plan commission, you had a certain date that you had to get it in. And a lot of times we're limited to just a couple of days as far as the required public hearing. And I know that one I tried to get in, but I mean, it was too late already by the time I got it in. It was only 3 days after our meeting, 4 days after our meeting. It wasn't enough time to get it published.
Well, and that's the way that we have it set up right now is if anybody wants to be on BZA agenda for next month, they have to have it in by tomorrow morning,
Yeah. And
30 days ahead of time.
And I mean, that's good and bad for people. I mean, it putting somebody that's wanting to do something for us, having construction, you're talking about absolute month. Or it could be a 2 month if it's missed within a day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I know, anyway, what was discussed with Clevenger himself, and this was just saying what could be done, what possibilities, options we could have. And I had even suggested, and he said the same thing, maybe we could actually have, I mean, we're all with the town council, of course, process, whatever needs to be done on that stuff, whether we had an executive meeting with the town council, BZA plan commission, because it seemed like we all had the same problem. I didn't know if that would be something that we looked at or not. I mean, that was just open and I'm just throwing it out here.
Part of what gives us the biggest problem is our local newspaper.
Right, and we're getting on.
And so, as the plan commission, what we're trying to do is change the ordinance. Instead of saying the Culver Citizen, that we will say a local newspaper. Because right now, Karen posts things online. She's got 3 places that she posts online that is better than the newspaper. be honest with you, more
And
people.
people use them.
Yeah, you're right. People
nowadays.
read that more than they do the newspaper. So what we're trying to do is with the planning commission is if we can get that time shortened, then we can, otherwise, the way it stands right now, the Culver citizen is one of our.
Well, I don't think we want to make it easy to ask for variances.
Right.
Because if they said, well, I've got this idea, I want to do it, I would be like, sorry, you have to plan ahead a
Yeah.
little bit. If you can meet the requirements, you can go right ahead with it
Exactly.
and you will have to have a variance.
Yeah.
And that's, we don't want to make it too easy.
Right, and I'm not trying to make it easier on that part, don't get me wrong, maybe I said it where I'm saying that's what I'm wanting, I'm not. I'm just wanting to make it actually easier for us to have the information at time, which this does. But at the same time, I don't want to use art for to push.
I think part of that problem is the fact that we've been trying to work this county thing, and submitting
Right,
it
is a big
online
problem,
and all
but
that.
I mean, we can't solve
And
that
Did
right
you,
now.
did you guys have the meeting yet about it? You
Take time.
were.
I mean.
Football season's over.
Now, I just speak for the planning commission right now, because I mean, we are trying to rectify a lot of these things that are caused. Part of it is in the old ordinances. We're still finding problems in the ordinance that dates back about 2009, I believe it was, Chuck.
Yeah.
And these issues we have to address, and it's gonna take. I mean, it is.
Oh, yeah, it's not
A lot
easy.
of it we haven't ran into yet, some of it we have, so. But that's something I want to bring up with BZA is that there are problems that we're trying to work on, and if there's anything, anybody else has any ideas, but. I think that, kind of have to go to council and make a final decision. That's all I have.
When you say local paper, would you be including the pilot news?
Yes.
And is part of the problem the fact that the Citizen went from a weekly publication to
Bi-weekly.
bi-weekly?
Yes.
Okay.
Used to be weekly, wasn't near as much problem, now it's bi-weekly. So.
Right.
Do you know what John Hart is doing out there? You know who I'm talking about, out there by the marina? The big complex or compound that he built. They're doing some work out there. I just have no idea what they're doing.
I can look it up.
Looks like they were putting gravel down and I don't know. I just trying to figure it out. I don't know. I don't know that they're building anything. They're just moving ground. I thought maybe you might know. You don't know.
I thought when I first saw it that they were expanding a parking area because they've got so many boat lifts and boats now that they store. And they can't keep them up. They haven't been able to keep them on site. So I thought they were able to, was like making parking area
Awesome.
where they could storage.
I don't know.
I didn't see anything online
Okay.
for a building or anything.
Anything else? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
Donuts.
Big donut for breakfast. Do something.
Mike. Thank you for your input.
Yeah, there you go, Mike.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know that. I'd harass for something.
Well,
She probably.
That's why she tells me not to tell me about it.
She probably already harassed, right?
She's with your life.
It's good having you here.
And a new granddaughter back to school.
You ought to take your chocolate.
Since my wife has spoken with you, left you a message.
Yes. She tell her I'm sorry. Can't be there. Thanks for those. Okay.
Wife is running advisory board for you.
I don't think.
I actually think that.
Did you?
Okay.
All right. Well, if you'd like, if you don't want it, I'll take it back.
Well, I mean, I've got one. If you'll need it for somebody else, I really don't need to think.
Okay.
I help you to have the extra, for her.
We don't have a problem.
You're right.
Maybe don't do it. I don't know.
Something like that behind there.
2 weeks ago, that was really.
I know.
Does yours run up the back?
Yeah, they all, that's where the sewer line
Probably,
goes.
that's probably what they have access to.
Karen, some of it, and just trying to bump it down, meeting's finished. Okay.
It is. More than 100 feet.
Thank you.
Yes, like 100, 100.
I saw them camp out this summer.
When all these things started showing up.
Yeah, stuff.
They might send it over.
She said, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know for sure. I just.
I know you recently was coming to the meeting. He's like,
Director of Technology.
I sure talked to you. I understand. I just said I'm out there. Yeah.
Well, no, she, her second.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
But then some.
Well, it was funny, my wife has, with her first one.
Get that.
And she might be the best.
Go on to Marshall County, website.
Okay. It's.
Understand online.
Yeah, and I was saying, I'd be happy to prove it, you know.
And if you have any questions.
Thank you again.
You bet.
Jumping on board.
Yeah.
We need you.
Sounds familiar.
I don't even know, but you're asking the right question.
I assume there was.
Well,
Better ask for sure.
I've been doing quite a few of them. I've been to
So many
several
people just
past decades.
think they know and.
It's heard a lot of them.
Appreciate it.
We built 12 years ago.
Thinking ahead.
And Mike was building. And then I worked for him doing, stuff for about 8
I don't know
years.
why they gravitated.
So I was kind of familiar with all this stuff.
Ted spoke the language and I walked the walk for so many years, so.
Okay.
Chuck, I don't think anybody took a note.
There I helped Bill. Pete Irving.
Yeah,
So,
Skyline's building Schmitz now.
What are the plans to get in your office finished?
Yeah, they got.
He's supposed to be working on it.
Yeah, I know.
But I think he has,
Anyway.
he works for, he's an EMT, so he
Started out.
works 3 days off, 6 or whatever, I don't know.
The,
Thank you.
I noticed Marshall